joining me live at 11 for a conversation with. Today we've got Steve Brookes, who's the creator and illuminator behind Wacky Lamps. Steve wears many hats, both in the physical sense and the metaphorical sense. His vast career spans a number of different areas, from horticulture to television presenting, to publishing, to podcasting, and so much more. But what I wanted to do was to focus more on his the passion he has in his life. Good morning, Steph. Yes, you are the passion he has in his life, but I'm afraid we're not talking about you today. We're going to be talking about his passion for creating the most beautiful, the most stylish, and the very much in demand lamps. But they aren't just lamps. For me, they are illuminated works of art. So, to no further ado, I'm going to invite Steve on and we will take it from there. So, good morning, Steve. I see you're there. I'm just going to invite you in. Oh, sorry. There he is.
There we are. Good morning, Sammy.
How are you this morning?
Very well indeed. Very better than the weather. The weather's a bit naff here this morning, but
it is. Yeah. I was just Steph's just said it's not all about her because I said she was one of your passions, but not the one we're talking about today.
No. She gave me a strict instruction a while ago. She said, "You're not doing the interviewing. So, let Sammy talk."
Okay then. So I've got my notes in front of me. So you have to excuse me when I just glance down. So I want to get everything.
No problem.
Okay. So first of all, I'd like to pinpoint where the creativity first sprouted from, because I said in my introduction you've done so many different things, but all those things you've done actually you have to be creative about your thinking, about how you're going to do it, whether it's the horticulture, the publishing, whatever you're doing, there has to be an element of creativity, and a big element within that. But where did that initial spark come from? Was it from a school teacher that made you very inquisitive about things, how things worked, etc.? Or is it something that you feel is just innate in you?
That's a great first question, Sammy. It really is, because I thought this myself. I asked myself the same question about a year or so ago, because I never thought of myself as being a creative in the with your hands way. But then when I asked myself this question, I thought back. It's creativity isn't just with your hands. It starts in here. And that took me right back to my early days. My father, God bless him, he was creative, but he was creative with words. He was a great wordsmith. He used to love the English language, and he taught me my love of the English language and the correct usage of the English language. And he also told me never to be afraid of trying to do things right, and nicely put people right about certain things. Later on, and it was a school teacher, a particular teacher that I had called Harry Marlowe. And when I was at school, I was a very shy, very nervous little boy at school, very sort of within the self. And it was Harry Marlowe, who was my teacher at junior school, who really took me under his wing, because he used to write poetry and I used to do lovely stories, and he saw the creativity in that. Later on, horticulture was always my real. So Steph's asking me something.
The echo on you. Can you wear earphones?
Can I wear earphones? How will that? Hold a second. We have a technical hit. How will that help me?
I think the echo is because you're talking and because there's two of you on.
So earphones plugged into my phone.
Or wireless.
Oh yeah, I've got my wireless ones. Yeah, in the bedroom. So we're just going to try and get. Apparently, there's an echo.
Oh, I can't hear it. Maybe
I can't hear the echo, Steph, and I can now hear the echo coming through. So, but I'll go on while Steph's finding me my...
Just on you, it's not on Sammy, so that's why.
Okay, let me just put these on, and we should... These are great. These are bone-conducting earphones. Have you ever seen these?
No.
These don't go over your ear, because I've got a hearing aid in that one. These actually fit over, and they're bone-conducting, so they go straight to the
Well, so
bone.
they vibrate at the back?
Yeah.
All right, oh, cool.
Let's see if it works. Are we connected up?
Oh, I can hear you, but...
Yeah. I don't know whether my earphones are connected. Oh, well. Oh, we're going to...
Okay. Sorry,
Okay.
so you were saying...
Yeah, so I was saying that... yeah, so when I was at school, horticulture was my big thing. I loved horticulture. I wanted to be involved in horticulture. I wanted to be involved in anything to do with plants. And then I became a landscape garden designer. Eventually, after going through different horticultural occupations, I became a landscape garden designer. So when I thought back as to where my creativity started, I could see then the creativity in creating someone's garden, in landscaping, in the colours, and it's something that I realised then was in me. And you can't explain, as you're an artist, you can't explain why you put those two colours together, or why you choose to do that bit of abstract art first, and with that, it just works. It just works. It just works. And then I found later on, I like to tinker. I've always loved to tinker. I used to tinker in my dad's garage, my Gramps workshop, and then the creativity with my hands and the lamps started about 3 or 4 years ago, when Steph started to do shows with her lovely fibre art, and she said, "Oh, I need some more lighting on the stand. Could you make me some lamps?" And I thought, "Oh, really? I've never made a lamp in my life." So I started, and I thought, again, the creativity came. It's not going to be an ordinary lamp. It's going to be something a bit different. You know, I think I made a bottle lamp and a book lamp, and they looked good on the stand. And somebody wanted to buy them at the end of the show. I thought, well, that's nice. I've just made a couple of lamps, not intending to sell them, and somebody wanted to buy them. So that got me thinking. Then the entrepreneurial hat came on, as well as the creative hat. And I thought, yeah, I could make lamps, and I wanted to make them a bit different. Some lamps that had got sort of something quirky about them, something wacky about them, hence Wacky Lamps. And that's where it slowly developed. The creativity that built up with my father, with my teacher, with my landscaping, all came together in the lamps that I make today.
Going back to when you first started making the lamps, I know that at the beginning you were recycling radios or bell sets.
Yes,
I
still do.
Can you explain a bit about that?
Do I? Sorry, what's after again?
Can you just explain a little bit more about your radio sets and your bell sets that you were?
I think my lamp making falls into two categories. It's the pipe lamps that I'm probably best known for, but I do love capturing and saving bits of memorabilia, bits of history that we're going to be put on the skip and be thrown away, and then trying to find a way of bringing that love back into them and saying, look, I was a piece that was in the 1930s, a radio that's now ceased to work, but I have been reborn as a lamp. And the bell sets are my favourite. I know you've got one of my bell sets, which is so lovely, but they're my favourites to do because they are a piece of British communication history. They were the original telephone bell sets you had in the 1930s. If you were wealthy enough, you would have a bell set on your wall, and you would dial the exchange, wind the handle, a little ping would go down the exchange. The lady would put down her knitting, pick up the thing and say, hello, and you would say, Stratford-on-Avon 343, please. Only 3 numbers in those days. And she would put the long lead into another, and that's how it started. Those bell sets now are defunct. They can be adapted to be used on the phone, but not very easily. And I see lots of them that are being sold off, maybe because they're just in a bad state of repair. And I can see them as a lovely lamp because the quality of workmanship in some of the items I restore, refurbish, repurpose is just second to none. And you'll know by looking at your bell set, that's how they used to be in the 1930s.
Absolutely.
The brass and the beautiful wood.
I mean, when you said to me that it's one maker would make it all,
Yep.
do the woodwork, do all the wiring and everything, and I look at that piece on my sideboard and I look and I sort of think, my goodness, I have got a piece now of living history.
Yes.
It's not being binned. It's going to continue. And other than that maker, it's only had two, that maker and you.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so wonderful to have in my home and to be able to pass down to my children and my children's children in time to come.
Yeah. What I like to think about when I look at a piece like that is, and I'm sat there in my workshop for hours, polishing it and stripping it down, making sure I keep all the internal workings exactly the same as they were, is I imagine the old, and I don't know why he's an old guy, he probably wasn't an old guy, with his half-cut glasses, his leather apron, and his old wooden-handled tools, making those dovetail joints on the corners of that bell set. And I can almost smell the workshop he was in, the general post office workshop. There's probably 3 or 4 on a bench chatting away about the football, you know, and making these bell sets. And I think that's what I do. Whenever I make a lamp, I go into almost story mode within my head.
Yeah.
And it just really makes it a lot more interesting for me.
But also I sort of think it's having that story in your head as you're recreating it, as you're putting the life back into it, and then to be able to pass that story on to the new owner. I just think it's an integral part of art and making art and creating art, is that each piece does have a story. It doesn't have to be a long story.
Right. It
could just be, I saw this and it reminded me of X, Y, Z. And then the person who buys it then embellishes that story with their own thoughts and feelings.
Just what I was going to say. They complete the narrative then, don't they? You've got thoughts about that lamp when you look at it. I've told you the story that I know about it. It was made by one person. It was handmade. The wood may have been from 3 or 4 different sources, so that when you strip it down and take all the horrible brown lacquer they put on it, you might see 2 or 3 different sorts of wood. They had to use what they had available in those years. Well, it was between the wars, so difficult times, but they made, the craftsmanship was just out of this world.
If we can move on to your pipe men, in a short period of time, they have evolved into something so special and so amazing. I mean, they are, you know, like I said at the beginning, they are in demand. And what you're creating is amazing. And whether it's a Marvel character or an actual person, there's something that you manage to put in to those pipe men or women, pipe people, that you're able to put the essence of that person. Have you got one nearby that you can show and expand upon that so people can understand what I'm saying? Because it is amazing what you do.
Well, if you look behind me here, you can let's take, for instance, Jimi Hendrix here. Jimi Hendrix on here. This is the I decided to do Jimi Hendrix. Mostly I do commission pieces. Somebody will come to me and say, I've got a commission, I'd like you to do a lamp of a certain, it could be a sports person, it could be one of their family members playing sports. But I just loved Jimi Hendrix. He was with us for only a short period of time, taken off us from us when he was 27. He had just 4 years of real stardom. And in that 4 years, he reinvented the way that electric guitars are played. So I found this wonderful picture of him on stage, and I thought that is the iconic photograph that you think of Jimi Hendrix. He used to play the guitar with his hands, feet, teeth, whatever. and I wanted to recreate that. So this is what I've tried to do with that piece there, is I've tried to recreate that pose. Now, I still don't know how I manage to do it sometimes. That's not me being pretentious, but sometimes it just sort of flows from you when you've got a piece that you really want to do, and you obviously feel the same. You start doing it. Some pieces I do just come together, others are real struggle. But he just came together. I sort of channeled my inner rock star. Not as I'm a rock star at all, but you know, we've all got that secret that we'd like to have been something else. I can imagine that I would have loved probably to have been able to play the guitar. And when I made him, he just fell together just perfectly. And I wanted, and just going back a little bit, when I first started doing the pipe characters, they weren't as detailed as they are now. No. They were quite, I would say, quite basic, because that's all I knew at the time. I knew I had a limited number of bends and elbows to use, and I didn't, it was just malleable iron, galvanized malleable iron that I used. And then, as with all art, it evolves. As you become more accustomed to using the pieces that you've got, you want more. You want to experiment. You think there must be a way that I can make that leg bend a little bit more. Then I discovered these joints, the little ball joints that you can have on lamps, to like adjustable lamps. And that's revolutionized my characters, because they are now, I see them as elbows and knees. In fact, whenever I look at a piece of plumbing now, I don't see it as a piece of half-inch elbow. I see it as a shoulder or a hip or an ankle. And that's just the way I see plumbing bits now. So they've developed and they've gained a little bit more detail. And yeah, I mean, the commissions I do can be quite weird and wonderful. I've got to do one soon of a man swimming the channel, swimming the English Channel. He was a channel swimmer. I love doing pop stars, because you can still get these little reproduction, accurate miniature guitars. So it has developed, but all art develops. And I don't now look at my early pieces as, oh no, they're no good. I look at them as being part of the evolution. Does that make sense?
I mean, that's the thing. When you're creating art, you can't dismiss everything that's come before, because it came with a purpose. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing now. You know, so that's why, for example, with my artwork, my earlier pieces, I don't devalue them because they were created earlier. I show gratitude for them, for where I am now. But when you're talking about your elbow joints and your knee joints, when you're looking at the plumbers merchants, we see every Sunday at 5. You go live on Instagram from your workshop, and it is like in a little Aladdin's cave in there, and you have boxes upon boxes upon boxes of all bits and pieces that you use to create your pieces of art. When you started, was it recycled bits and pieces you used, and now do you have to buy specific bits in to create what you're creating?
It was a combination. To start with, I used what I could get my hands on. I had lots of little bits and pieces, but gradually, as the need to produce actual representations of figures, people, you can't just use what you've got hanging around. It's not possible. But what I love to do, as all us artists do, is to support local businesses. And there's a lovely family firm of plumbers merchants not far, well, in Birmingham, which is only about 25 miles from me. And their two brothers started this plumbing merchants a few years ago. It's all British-made plumbing fittings. So I do use new stuff. And the good thing for us over here, because there'll be people listening to us now around the world, is that in this country, we've still got historic houses. We've got a history, of course, in the UK. And we've got National Trust. We've got British Heritage. And all those properties have got the old galvanized iron plumbing fittings. And when they do any renovation on them, they have to still use those same type of fittings. So they're still produced in this country, which is great for me. Other countries have only got black iron. Other countries don't have. They pull you over to copper and push fit. But I'm lucky, really, because there's still access to new and second-hand. I mean, I've got a plumbing friend who drops me round pieces of old plumbing that he's found. And of course, once they've been dismantled, polished up or painted, you wouldn't know the difference. So I'm always up for a freebie. But if I've got to specifically make a character, I have to say that I'm going to have to buy those bits. But
yes,
it's and of course, to be able to instantly say, right, I can make Bruce Springsteen, I can make Jimi Hendrix, I can make Katrina Johnson Thompson hurdling. I've got to have a vast array. So the outlay has been enormous. But it's rather have it all there than have to say, well, I can't do that. I've got to wait until I can order some bits. So like you and your paints, you've probably got every paint known to man there. You can just pick it up.
There's never too many paints.
No. Well, my workshop will probably rival some plumbers merchants for bits and pieces. But it is lovely. And the joy is finding a way to solve a problem. Whether it's the angle of a foot, and I will look at it and you know instinctively when something isn't right, but you don't know how to settle it, how to solve it. So you sleep on it. Or I'll bring in Steph and say, look at that. What? So, well, that's your knee wouldn't go like that. That's and she's blunt, but you know you have to accept. If you ask for advice, you've got to be able to take it, and she's always right. You know, so it's a combination of knowing it's wrong and then getting that approval, getting that rubber stamped by somebody else to say, no, that's not right. You've got to redo that.
Yeah. So are you able to talk about one of the commissions you delivered earlier in the week? I know you spoke about it on your podcast and on the show about Slash. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Okay, there's a lovely story. For those of you who don't know, Slash was the lead guitarist in the very famous rock group that people don't realise aren't still together, Guns N' Roses. He was the lead guitarist, and he was recognised by his top hat. He wore a black top hat on stage with gold embellished bits and pieces on it. And I've got no great love of Guns N' Roses. I love all sorts of heavy music, but you know, not particularly. But I do listen a lot to a radio station called Absolute Radio, and I follow a lot of the DJs. Well, one of their DJs is the DJ who hosts their rock station called Classic Rock, and it's Leona Graham. And Leona Graham, out of the blue, messaged me on Instagram to say she'd seen my Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin. She'd seen the Jimmy Page lamp, and she said, "Oh, could you do me a lamp of Slash?" So I said, "Yeah, absolutely. What an honour to be able to do a lamp for that." And we conversed with pictures. We agreed on a pose, which you'll see on my Instagram feed. And I set about making the lamp, made the lamp. Then there was the problem of getting it to her because I didn't want to post it. I have to post my stuff sometimes, but this I thought, well, I'm going to be going down London Way at some point. We will drop it off. In the meantime, Slash's agent in California contacted me to say, could I make a lamp the same for Slash himself? Which is just huge, because Leona Graham had interviewed Slash on a couple of occasions, so they sort of vaguely know each other. In fact, he signed her arm at their last interview, and she had the tattoo done of that signature on her arm. Oh, wow. That's how much of a Slash fan she is. So, so I've got the Slash. I can probably, because I haven't sent it off to him yet, I can show you. It's up here. There's the picture, and there's the lamp.
Oh, fabulous.
Ready to be shipped off to California, to Beverly Hills. And he even requested that I use, because I can get the replica guitar quite easily, but he's got replica guitars of his that he signed. So I've got one that he signed.
Oh, wow.
They sent me from America to put on the lamp to then send back.
Oh my goodness,
with
that
his
is.
signature on it. Yeah. So it's,
Well,
go on.
I mean, that's just so fabulous that, you know, the actual guy wants a piece of your work, and you know, how that must make you feel just so, I don't know, just wonderful.
It's
wonderful.
an honour, yeah.
Yeah. But then when anyone buys a piece of your work, they're not just buying your work, they're buying a piece of you as well.
Well, yeah, they are, because there is a lot goes into it, you know, and there are certain words that don't figure in my lexicon, don't figure in my dictionary. One phrase is "that'll do," and that should. I hate the word "should." Oh, that should be okay. It doesn't mean anything. It's either okay or it's not. And it's the same with my lamps. They're either fit to go out or there's something wrong with them. And I will take a whole lamp to bits and start again if it's not just right, and I don't know why it's not just right. Because to me, if somebody's buying your work and they've asked for a particular person to be recreated, you've got to, with your hand on your heart, you've got to do your very best that you can. And if you know inside that you've done your very best, that you could have put no more into that piece, like you and your art, you could have put no more into that piece of art, and it's done. And I get to that stage where I think, no, this is it. This is done now. Jimi Hendrix is Steph's favourite piece that I've done. It's probably one of my favourite pieces as well. But I couldn't have made it any better for what I'm working with. And so there is a bit of me in there, and I do feel a bit sad when some of my lamps go out. But a lot of them are touch sensor. You see down here, this is a touch sensor. I love putting those switches in because it means that it's a little bit of magic. And I think when you create something and you can add a bit of magic, and my phrase is under promise and over deliver.
Yeah, I think that's so important in when you're producing artwork. But also what I'd like to know is, I know you've spoken about it before on your podcast and in your Instagram lives, but the moment you decided, actually, I'm not just making lamps, I'm creating art, how did that feel? Physically, emotionally, how did that feel when you crossed that line?
It was, well, Steph started the idea because she was an artist long before I was an artist. Her creations are stunning. Her 3D fiber sculptures are stunning. So I have no problems with saying, yeah, you are an artist. And then I think we both said, well, am I an artist? I don't know. But I suppose it was about, with the lockdown, you lose track of time. Probably 18 months ago. It could even have just been 12 months ago. I don't know. But at some point I thought, well, what is art? It's creating something from inside that somebody wants to buy. It's a creation you've made. It's not restricted to canvas art. It can be. And so when I first started to call myself an artist, there was a little bit of you that thinks, well, what a pretentious jerk I am. You know, I'm not really an artist. I'm just saying it sounds good. But when you soon get used to that, and it's difficult because there aren't a lot of people. In fact, in this country, I haven't found anybody else that does the same sort of lamps that I do. And sorry, someone was calling me there. The phone went. I turned it off. Probably trying to sell me something normally. But I just called myself an artistic illuminator as a joke to start with, but it sort of stuck a little bit because it brings in the art form and also illuminating. And I hope that my lamps provide a little bit of joy to people in their lounges and something a little bit different.
I know that people are actually going to be able to come and see your work this Friday, Saturday and Sunday.
Yes.
You're at the Contemporary Art Fair.
Well, I certainly wouldn't have been doing the show that I'm doing this weekend before I called myself an artist, because it's a contemporary art fair. It's a part of the Contemporary Art Fair group, and they do all over the country. I think they do about 3 or 4 different venues, but we're doing, both Steph and I are doing the fair next weekend. We've got separate stands because normally we would be next door to each other. I haven't got my umbilical cord to Steph anymore.
Well, I think the organisers decided to put you apart for a reason.
Very, very wise. 2 of us together, it could be just a live podcast then, couldn't it?
Steph said you're a lamper.
A lamper. She always calls me a lamper. Yeah, I'm sure that has a hidden meaning. If you looked up lamper in the Urban Dictionary, it probably means something horrible, but, you know, I'll let her get away with it. I'll get her back. Yeah, so we're doing Sandown Park in Esher in Surrey this coming Friday, Saturday and Sunday. There's a preview night on Friday from 6 till 9 p.m. Where there's a glass of wine and you can have first dibs at all the art. Some beautiful art there. I mean, there are some stunning stalls. A friend of ours, Katie Rundle, is exhibiting there with her wonderful textile art. And then Saturday it's 10 till 6, Sunday it's 10 till 5. If you look on my feed, there's a post that I put about the show. I think it was on Sunday. There's codes there for getting free tickets. You can use the code online to book your free ticket. Either gala nights for the preview night or for the main show. But it's exciting, Sammy. It's exciting to do our first art fair, proper art fair.
Well, I'm coming to see you with some of the Blooms girls on the Saturday.
Really? Oh.
We are. We're coming to support you both. Oh. And then we're going out for something to eat and a drink after. So if anyone turns up on the Sunday, Mr. Wacky Lamps might be a bit worse for wear.
Yeah. Do they sell wine at McDonald's or not?
Oh, they're going to McDonald's. Right.
No,
also, so I will put all the links after the interview in the comments. Also, I want to talk about is Fibre and Filaments podcast.
Do you? Is that wise?
It's very wise.
Well, yeah, I mean, this was something that I think you started this in a way. You started certainly the regularity of it because Steph and I, well, this really started because let me take you back to lockdown, the first lockdown we had. Steph, and you wouldn't believe this, seeing her posts and her videos and everything now, Steph hated going on camera. Steph hated doing videos. She would never let me point the camera at her. But of course, lockdown, and I've always been in front of the camera. I've done broadcasting and all sorts over the years, live presenting, so it didn't really worry me. But we realised when we went into lockdown that we had to do something on social media. The shows that we'd got booked in were no more. So one of the other exhibitors, a guy called Jack Draws Your Pets, he was at a show. He said, "Do you want to come on one of my lives?" And we thought, what's a live? We'd never done a live before. So we looked it up to see what an Instagram live was. And we decided we would do it. We decided to turn our kitchen into our stand. We weren't doing shows, so we decided to move the kitchen table out the way and build our stand. And we did that. We did lives from the kitchen. But it also meant that Steph became more used to being on camera and being heard. Well, our lives, because we work together, we're in each other's company 24/7. For most couples during lockdown, it was like this, you know, it was sort of sparks were flying. But for us, that doesn't happen because we're always together. And we've got a very, I would call it, punchy relationship in a jokey sort of way. With me, it's joke. With Steph, it's physical. She does punch the shit out of me some days, but it's all in the best possible taste. But we have this lovely camaraderie, this lovely banter that we do. And we decided, wouldn't it be good to sit down of a Sunday morning, live, unedited, and just do a quick podcast. We'll do one or two, see what we think. And we just talk about our lives during the last 2 weeks. And everything that you hear on the podcast is genuine. Nothing is made up. Nothing is edited. It's as we say it. It's not for the faint-hearted. We call it explicit because You know, there's a little bit of colourful language that gets slipped in. And it was you, we were going to do it once a month, and you said, oh no, you've got to do it once a fortnight. So that's what we do.
Well,
so...
I'm hoping for once a week, but I have to be grateful with once a fortnight.
But it is...
It's just so, it is so funny. It's definitely not made up, because no one could imagine the situations you two managed to get yourself in, to be honest.
I know. Sometimes I wonder, you know, because we Steph and I both refuse to get old. There's no way. You know, we're still 22 in our heads. You know, that's what we are. Our bodies would argue with that. Absolutely. They would argue that, but we just carry on. And from the moment we get up in the morning, we seem to laugh at the silliest things. At breakfast, we can be just stitches at like 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. We can just be rolling about. And sometimes we don't even know why, who said something, what we've said. And now we say, got to go in the podcast. If I don't get it written down straight away, I forget. So
yeah, but then when you write it down, Steve, can you remember the notes that it relates to?
I realised that to our detriment. But I said, I've got on here, and it was one last week. I think I said, and it says, try licking it rather than using your knife. And then it took me a while to realise what that meant, you know. And there was other ones that I can't repeat on this podcast, but on this live. But yeah.
But the podcast started out as you being able to talk about your work, and Steph liked the way I renamed it, but you didn't pick up on it.
It was supposed to be talking about our art and then throwing in a few quips and a few little things. And it very much went from that boom, it changed to 95% of it is talking about the silly things we've done or that's happened to us. Or we both have this sense of humour where we imagine ourselves in scenarios we see on television. The recent one was the Winter Olympics. We both imagined ourselves figure skating and lifting each other. We both imagined ourselves doing the two-man bob. Well, we're not exactly live young spring chickens. I think we're old roosters that are about to be slaughtered, but, you know.
But in your imagination, you can do anything.
We can do anything in our heads, you can. And that applies to life in general, Sammy. You can do anything. If it's in your head, you can do it. How well you can do it, who knows?
I've got some quick fire questions for you, Steve.
Not looking forward to these. But
there's only a few of them. So, what gives you most pleasure to create? Your bell sets or your illuminated sculptures?
I'd have to say it's the sculpture.
Okay. Your garden or your workshop?
Oh, that's changed over the last 12 months. Workshop now. It was always the garden. Now it's the workshop.
Travel or home?
Home.
Home. Fedora or flat cap? Oh, have I offended you?
Fedora.
Ah, fedora.
Definitely fedora.
Marvel or DC Comics?
Marvel.
Screw cap or bayonet cap?
There's something about bayonet that still is in my love of nostalgia. So I would say, although I use 95% screw, bayonet is the thing. There's a little story that I'll probably tell you later on in the podcast about bayonet and screw caps and me and Steph in B&Q when I first met her. That's
oh Lord. Tube bulbs or globe bulbs?
Globe bulbs. Globe. The bigger the better.
Right. Are you Charlie or Bosley?
Oh, Bosley. I'm Bosley. I'm the Bosley to all my Blooms Charlie Angels. Yeah, I am. If people don't get that reference, watch the Blooms Art House post over the next few weeks.
Absolutely. So, what else, Steve, has 2022 got in store for you and for Wacky Lamps?
Well, it's going to be a bit of an odd year because we haven't got as many shows booked in because we are due to be moving house. So with that house move, we've still got to incorporate our workshop work. So what I shall be doing is probably mainly commission work. As much as I would love to go down to the workshop and think, oh, today I will do this lamp and that lamp, that's not going to be feasible. So it'll be commission only work leading on to the shows we've got in September, October, and November. Hopefully during the summer we will have moved house. But I'm just always looking, the joy is that next commission that comes in. And oh yes, I know what I can do with that. I know how I can solve that problem. And that's the next joyous thing. And I'm hoping after this show this weekend, the commissions will be there to keep me going during the summer.
It's lucky you do commissions, actually, because lots of people just produce work and then that's what they buy. But you have the extra of being able to do the odd commission.
Yeah, I should have said at the start, I do commissions, of course. That's an in-joke with me and Steph. She hates it at the shows because all she ever hears me say is, you know, I do commissions. Yeah.
Steve, thank you so much for joining me this morning. It's been lovely to have you on and to see your work and hear about you and hear about how it all started and how it's growing. I can't recommend the podcast enough. You do have to be aware that it is for adults, only because of the sweary language, not because of anything else.
Well, I hope not.
I will put your website, I will put your Instagram page, your Facebook page, all in the links below so people can contact you if they're wanting a commission or if they're wanting to buy a piece that you've already created, because everything is created to the same standard, the same high standard, and each piece is really an illuminated piece of artwork.
Oh,
so thank you, Steve, for joining me.
It's been lovely, Sammy. Thank you for choosing me as one of your honoured guests. It's lovely to be able to, for once, for someone else to ask me about my work than me asking other people. But it's been a pleasure, Sammy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Steve. I'll see you later.
All right. Take care, darling.
See you later. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for you all for watching and joining Steve and myself. I will be posting this up shortly so you can re-watch if you missed the beginning. Thank you to everyone that joined us. Sorry we didn't have a chance to mention anyone, but I was just so involved in listening to what Steve had to say, because I think when you have someone who is so interesting and has such a talent, you just want to hear them talk. So next week I have another guest. It's Ashley Green, who's the Better Body Guru. I will be posting up about him and what he does. All I'll say is, if you're a woman, this man wants to support you. He's a coach, he is a physical instructor, he is so much more than just that. But thank you so much for watching today, and I'll see you next week live at 11. Bye bye.